Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of The Oven. It's Matt. I'm joined by Jake. How's it going, my guy?
What's going on?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing better than some people that were at Coachella. That's the big story right now going on in the music world, and that's what we're going to start with tonight. We have that on our agenda. We're also going to get into another cool game that I'll introduce after we talk about this Coachella news, because that is what's popping right now. Jake, it's summertime. The vibes are up, and it's festival season. Coachella, Rolling Loud, the Lyrical Lemonade, Summer Smash, like they're all about to start. And Coachella, the first weekend, just happened. And of course, because we can't have anything good in this world, there was a lot of negatives that came from it. And those negatives were from none other than the headliner Frank Ocean. As we all know, Frank Ocean, a very, very beloved R&B artist, but he has a cult fan base. Like his fans are absolutely crazy and diehard to him, which good for them. They love Frank Ocean. But I think even them, a lot of them were disappointed with his behavior this weekend. So in case you missed it, Frank Ocean was the headliner for this past Coachella weekend. And of course, I was not there. Jake was not there. So if you were there and it was the greatest show in the world for you, then by all means, enjoy yourself and don't listen to what we have to say. But a lot of people are saying that it was extremely disappointing in the news that has come out surrounding it. Just the facts, not opinions, just the facts. It's quite disappointing for an artist of Frank Ocean's caliber. It's come out that he showed up an hour late, knowing that he'd be kicked off early by the curfew. So apparently he was supposed to come out around like 10 p.m. or something, and he came out at 11. Then he got kicked off once curfew came out. He had a DJ perform a set during the show to waste time. He barely sang any of his songs, and he mainly played remix versions of some of his songs. A security guard was shaking ass. That's actually what this says. A security guard was on there shaking ass on stage to kind of divert from his whole situation. Apparently, he was half behind a screen the entire time, and I saw a video circulate of him not even holding a mic in his hand. He was just standing on the stage singing his song as if he was a fan in the crowd singing his song. And I think the most and all that you can kind of forgive an artist for. Like whatever. People show up late, it's what happens. Like I went to a concert recently, he came out an hour late, performed for 45 minutes. It sucks, but that's just kind of what we deal with as fans. So at first I wasn't like too concerned. But then this came out. A tweet from the Festive Owl, and I won't read the entire thing. I'll try to paraphrase because it's quite long, but it says, I've been speaking with sources about exactly what happened. The stage production was supposed to and did contain an ice rink. It was constructed and ready to go. So again, these are people that actually have to put in this work and build a whole ice rink for Frank Ocean. Like these are normal everyday people whose job is to go work at Coachella as like construction workers. Frank decided at the last minute that he no longer wanted it. All the people walking around him at the start of the performance were actually ice skaters who had been practicing for weeks and were supposed to be skating as part of the show, and they were then forced to become background dancers. Coachella had to deconstruct the stage, again, had been planned and signed off for months in advance, melt the entire ice rink, and then set it up how Frank decided that day without warning. And let it be known that it's not like they were sitting around all day waiting for Frank to start. Coachella runs from like morning to night. So for these people, it's like nonstop.
Right.
This all happened when doors had already opened and people were securing their spots to find him. So if the last minute changes, so shout out to those workers at Coachella, because if those last minute changes weren't made, he wouldn't have performed at all, and the headline would not have the festival, would not have a closing headliner. Frank also personally pulled the plug at the last second on the live stream. So every single artist was live streamed for Coachella, and he did not allow his set to be live streamed. Don't know why.
That's such a Frank Ocean move, though.
It's such a Frank Ocean move. But ultimately, and I quote, it just didn't seem like he wanted to be there, but was obligated to be. Everything, including him, fell apart last minute. Don't expect to see any coverage from this festival about the set, something that is unprecedented in the history of Coachella. Their relationship is not in a good place. And then this tweet comes out. Frank Ocean apparently injured it's reported by TMZ, so take it with a fucking grain of salt. Frank Ocean apparently injured his ankle in a bike accident before Coachella, forcing the changes. And then I see a reply from someone debating hip hop on Twitter. His ankle affects his ability to show up and sing on time. Also, if he knew days before about his ankle, why'd he still make them build the stage? So I know that was a lot of information to take in for both of us and for anyone listening. But ultimately, I think what it comes down to is this, and Jake, you can chime in with your opinion as well. As an artist, you have an obligation, in my opinion, to perform for your fans, especially if you're a headliner at Coachella. Like these things don't come around often. It's the most popular music festival in probably the western side of the world. Like, am I mistaken?
No, 100% it's up there.
At least in North America. Maybe there's some like in South America that I don't know about, but it is an absolute privilege to be headlining Coachella and to act like you don't want to be there and you pretty much just get away with it because you are who you are. Like, can you think of any other artist that could do this and people would actually be in the comments defending his actions saying, okay, and I would have paid my whole life salary for 2 minutes, or I would have paid 60 grand just to touch him. Like, there's no other artist that has this crazy dystopian fan base like Frank Ocean. His entire shtick, and I think you actually said this to me word for word. His entire shtick is being mysterious. And in other words, being a fucking asshole.
Yeah, just being a massive dick all the time and like not caring about anything.
I mean, the guy hasn't performed in 6 years. He hasn't released an album, unless I'm forgetting, since Blonde in 2017. I don't know. He has singles. He has some Lucy's that he released, but no significant piece of work or a body of project or anything. And it's kind of annoying to me as a music consumer, a music lover, that this guy, we all know about his talent. Chanel Orange, Nostalgia Ultra, Blonde, clearly, all these projects are top tier projects, and I don't know. I'm losing my patience with Frank Ocean. I mean, that's just how I feel.
I think it boils down like real simply to Frank Ocean, right? Having this like indie persona. The idea of an indie artist is that you're not mainstream. And I think a lot of those guys like that. I think they like that mystique, that sort of artsy, outside the box type of aesthetic. And, you know, when you get to where Frank Ocean is, you're not an indie artist anymore. To be headlining Coachella, you have to be one of the top names, one of the most requested names in popular music right now. You don't just get there by being like a random indie guy. And it's not like you have to be there too. Like the thing is, he doesn't perform often, right? Like you said, he hasn't performed in forever. And so if you're going to have a show, like you said, you're obligated to show up. And not to mention, all the people you're fucking over, the whole crew, all the dancers, everyone that's been doing this is all for you, right? The check you're receiving, the money you're receiving, and even if you're not receiving money, by the way, a good example is the Super Bowl, right? Where people will do it for free. The Weeknd paid $50 million of his own money or something like that to do the Super Bowl. That's commitment. That's dedication. That's someone who wants to please his audience and put on a crazy show and be remembered as a performer. Whereas you get this guy who literally bombs his whole thing for no reason. And so I think it just boils down to a lack of care for the fans, a lack of care for the crew, for workers, for their time, right? And sort of a massive ego trip to where the world revolves around you and you're just going to do what you want because you can fucking do what you want. And that's not a very cool way to look at the world, man.
It's just the fact that he cannot drop an album for 6 years, not perform live for 6 years, and still be the most wanted name at a festival. Like when you have, like, there's so many artists that if they didn't drop for a year, let alone 6, we would completely forget about their name. And they would just be like another failed artist in the machine that's cycled out. In defense of Frank Ocean, if I can defend, to be, play good cop, bad cop here. He did go on a rant about his younger brother. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this. Frank Ocean, he lost his brother in 2020 to a car crash. And that he was supposed to headline Coachella in 2020. And for clear and obvious reasons, he dipped out. And people online are saying things like, oh, but he's still mourning his brother. He's still not over it, and all this stuff. I'm not trying to be an asshole here. If you're not ready to perform, do not perform. There are plenty of artists who would give up anything to have headline Coachella, to be in
1000%.
his shoes. And it's annoying because I don't want to call it a cop out because it's a sensitive topic, but it's kind of a cop out. Like if
I
you're
don't
not
think
ready, just don't perform.
I don't think
I don't
cop out's the right
understand.
term. I don't think I get what you're saying, but I think it's true. Like
Excuse?
there was obviously a lot going on, right? Like we were talking about the GQ article that was titled actually, comma, Frank Ocean's Coachella set was great. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know if you can just pay a bunch of money and have your PR team get you a sweet GQ, very positive article written about you. But yeah, I think it's just tough because to me, the most egregious thing is like, okay, you hurt your leg, whatever, right? You can't do the ice rink thing. Logically, to me, that makes sense. But you're going to do it the day of, and you need that melted. You can't just work around it. You can't just let the other skaters do their thing. Like there was a whole group of trained skaters, but you had to melt the ice rink because you broke your leg. Were you skating? Does he skate? Like what? I don't understand. It just feels like there's so many things that like little tidbits of information coming out that are just like mini fuck yous. Like blatant I don't care. You know what I mean from him? Shows up an hour late.
Yeah.
I don't care. Not singing a lot of my songs. Don't care. Like remixing your songs, people are saying that's a negative. That's pretty cool. Like I think that's a cool way to take your set, but it just, man, it's so strange. I think marketing companies should take notes and should literally do a case study on Frank Ocean and building a brand because it is insane to me how this guy has been able to stay in the position he's in for this long. Granted, he's not dropping like decent music. This is like you're not going to get another Blonde. No one's making that. No one's
Yeah.
going to make anything that sounds like that. So the
No
prestige
one's
is
ever
there.
no one's questioning his talent, you know?
Exactly. That's not the question. The question isn't, oh, should Frank Ocean be there? Duh, he's an amazing headlining act. Like, of course you'd want him to be there. But it more comes back to the idea that, hey, everything and everybody are saying you were a jackass the whole time. I get you're going through some tough things, but just don't be there then. And don't do it at the
Right.
last minute. The amount of people you screw over, imagine a month of your life is training to do an ice skating routine at Coachella for the headline act, Frank Ocean. And then the day of, nah, you're a background dancer. I don't know. Frank said melt the rink, dude. I don't know, man. Like, we got to melt the rink, bro. We got to melt the
I'm just
rink.
a messenger, man. You know,
Yeah,
don't get
yeah,
mad. I'm
don't
just a
shoot me.
messenger,
And
man.
you're just sitting there with your skates off right over your shoulder, just watching the rink slowly melt away. And you're just watching your dreams just disappear. And then you see this guy
Smell into
walk
the
up
atmosphere.
an hour late. He walks up and plays like 4 songs. And then you see the security guard shaking his ass. And you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Hey guys, I'm gonna play 6 songs, and in 4 of them, I sound like a fucking chipmunk. Let's get it.
It's also,
No.
yeah, it's a constant, I get this a lot with artists. It's a don't meet your heroes situation
Mm.
where a lot of concerts I've gone to, and it's a thing with hip hop too. I think it's that cool attitude of like, I don't give a fuck, man. Like maybe I will show up late. Who fucking cares? Like I'm all about money, baby. Like that sort of attitude, which is ironic because Frank Ocean doesn't really have that attitude in his music at all. It's very deep and kind of putting himself out there. But a good example is like I was going to see Travis Scott in Boston, and he comes out at like 1:30 at this casino club type deal, and literally got
Encore?
off. Yeah, encore. Got off two sentences, and then they cut the lights. And it's like you could say, yeah, the arena people, the manager is fucking everybody over. But why did he show up at 1:30? He knows the time that they're going to shut everything off. It's the same with Frank Ocean. You know when you have to be there. Just execute. You don't even have to do that much. People are just happy to see you. Like people are literally ready to praise you.
Bro, people will have sacrificed months and probably years of their life to save the money to like literally all they want is a respectable show.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't even give that. Yeah, you hit on a lot of great points, and I think we've discussed everything. It's just the idea of Frank Ocean is better than Frank Ocean. the idea of this guy,
Yeah.
because he's so mysterious, not on social media. Like, I get the appeal. Like, I also think like that mysterious vibe is cool because it's almost like it's almost like not even a human. It's like a supernatural thing. Like the idea of him is better than what he provides. And with everything he has going on in his personal life, I hope it gets resolved, and I hope the best for him. Just as a Frank Ocean fan, again, I'm not a diehard. I was disappointed with how we handled that headlining performance.
Yeah. And it's not a thing where it's like, oh, send hate to the guy. It's just like,
No,
it's more a situation where you're just like, damn, dude, really? Like, really? That's how it's going to go down? I think, sorry, I can wrap up quick here, but there's a lot of
go.
comedians talk about how, generally it's an older crowd. And big comedians will say a lot, this couple that's coming to my show had to get a babysitter, had to spend some money. They have work all next week. Like, this is their one night out. And so it's my
Right.
job to make their night out amazing. And that's the objective. And that's the mentality of someone who really cares and respects their fan base. And these comedians are literally going in and just flaming them in crowd work. But it's like they're trying to, provide the best show they can. And it just feels like at this Coachella set, that was not the case, which sucks.
Absolutely. It just sucks. The whole situation is just tough and controversial. But that was our take on it. The Frank Ocean Coachella set. Some people liked it that were there. And again, we weren't there. And some people didn't. We got all our information through a phone. So it is what it is.